Yes. A very good morning to everyone who will be joining us this morning. Good morning, Keola. It's great to have you here. I want to welcome you to Sharing the Link, which is our Facebook discussion where we usually discuss a number of issues, a number of topics. And of course, today's program is under our CRIE project, which is funded by the Delegation of the European Union here in Guyana. And today we'll be looking at the topic increasing inclusivity in the fight against child sexual abuse. And we're going to be focusing, of course, on Region 9, where Keola is based. Keola is one of our very hardworking staff here, at ChildLinK. So I'll give you the opportunity to tell us a bit more about yourself, for those who are not familiar with you.
Okay, thank you, Tiano. So my name is Keola Young. I was born in Region 9 in Atwood Village. It's very far from Letham, probably about 6 hours or so, but it's a very nice place. So I grew up in Region 9 and I'm here currently working. I function in the capacity as a counselor right now for the Child Advocacy Center.
Okay, that's great to know. And what is it you do? What does your role as a counselor entails?
So as a counselor, well, mostly what we do is we deal with children, all right? And as a counselor at the Child Advocacy Center, we do case management as well. And when we say we deal with children, we equip them with coping mechanisms that they need to function after probably a traumatic event has occurred.
Okay, and you mentioned you do a lot of work with children. Can you go into a bit more details about some of the issues that they would come to you guys with?
Yes, definitely. So yes, I do work with children most times. And for most of the times when children come to the center, they're being referred for cases of sexual abuse. And this occur either by close relatives or a trusted individual or even a stranger, right? So some of the issues that they would present with are low self-esteem. They would present with a feeling of worthlessness, depression, probably withdrawal from friends and family. Some of them would present with suicidal thoughts or suicidal behaviors, and also extreme fear or anxiety. These are just to name a few.
Okay. And what factors would you say would be contributing to these issues?
All right. So there are a lot of factors, but I'm just going to go through just a few of them. So some of the factors that may contribute to children being in a vulnerable situation could be poverty, right? So most times in the hinterland region, we're speaking for Region 9 right now, when we speak about poverty, it's not that the persons are really poor, but most of the persons living in the hinterland areas, especially in the far reach villages. So most persons usually do farming for a living, right? So most times the farms are very far from where they're living. So let's say the parents go out, they go to the farm to tend to their crops. They would spend about 3 days, probably to a week in the farming areas. So leaving these children unattended. So poverty, let's say, is one of the factor because you need to eat, right? These kids need to be provided for, but then they go out, they leave the kids unattended. So that's one of the factor I would say is poverty. Next, we can look at culture. When we speak about culture, we see children 12 years, 11 years out of school. Um, Probably the parents can provide for them, and hence they would actually be in relationship with older individuals who would be able to provide the basic needs that they need, right? So that's another thing we look at. We can also look at disability. Some of these children are disabled. They cannot fend for themselves. Hence, persons would take advantage on them, right? So those are some of the factors I would say that usually contribute to children being in vulnerable situation, which would lead to child sexual abuse.
Yes, and I like that you brought up culture, especially because the culture in Region 9 wouldn't necessarily be the same as it is here in Georgetown, and there are a number of other factors that would contribute to children being in vulnerable situations that would be so different to what is contributing to that in Region 4. I want to hear about maybe some of the activities that the CAC would do, maybe to bring awareness to child sexual abuse and so on in Region 9.
Okay, so in Region 9, well, it's a very vast area. So we can look at what we do most time in the communities. We look at sensitization. We do sensitization in schools. So since most of the villages are far outreach, transportation may be issue at the moment, but we're working on that. But so far, I've been able to um, reach out to three of the far reach villages, mainly Karasabai, Sand Creek, and I. So what we do, we sensitize. In the sensitization programs, we equip these kids or even the residents um, in the villages with knowledge about sexual abuse and other forms of abuse and how they could be able to access these services that the CAC provide.
Okay. And when you say residents, do you like maybe focus on maybe sometimes parents alone, maybe community leaders alone, or it's like maybe a group of them together? How is it that is done?
Okay, so it's usually be a group of mixed individuals. It could be parents, the community leaders, everybody. So once they know that you're going there to do a sensitization program, they would inform the parents, probably the teachers, and the leaders also would come out. So it's a group of individuals from the community that usually come to attend these sessions.
Yes, I also want to know, I know we're going to be sidetracking a bit, but this should be in terms of your observation and so on, what
Mhm.
is the culture like in the region as it relates to persons and child sexual abuse when it comes to maybe their willingness to report cases and so on?
Right. So region 9. I'm saying region 9. All right. So we're having an increase in reports at the moment. Probably not as much as we would like to have, but persons are speaking out once they're sensitized and they have the knowledge that the CAC is here and it provides these services, they're speaking out. But there are also persons that are still covering up the issues about child sexual abuse, or they don't feel comfortable speaking about it. So we're still having those cases not being reported, or even if they're reported, they don't meet to the police station. They probably report it in the village. They report it to probably a senior official in the village, but then it's not being reported to the police, right? And then there's another case of they're reporting it to the police. They do the forensic interviews. They go through a certain process, up to a certain process of the investigation, and they go. The same persons would come and withdraw the case. So they would say, "Oh, we don't want no issues," or then most persons don't realize it's a long process. These cases won't be solved in 2-3 days, and it takes a while. So that's why some of them would just withdraw the case.
And maybe what do you think we could do to maybe reduce this, or not necessarily stop this from happening, because it might take a while, but reduce the amount of persons who may be withdrawing their cases? What do you think we can do to maybe support them and so on?
Right. What I would say is they definitely need support. Once they don't have the support, they won't go through it. Some persons they look at the finances. You need to travel out from far out villages, far reach villages, right? Some persons don't have the finances to be traveling back and forth, so they definitely need financial support. Some persons are just not equipped with all the knowledge of the court process that you need to go through, and all the processes that the investigation has to go through. So we need to provide these individuals with some sort of support where they would feel comfortable to continue to proceed with these cases.
Definitely. And when it comes to emotional support and so on, that is something that they would need, because like you mentioned, it's a very long process and it's gonna take a toll on them mentally. And as we move on with our discussion, I want to know, like, to what extent would you say that persons, are accessing the service that the CAC is offering?
All right. So when we look at the extent, like I did mention, the CSC is located in the central of Latam, right? So when we look at persons not being able to come out from the villages, they don't have money for travel, and sometimes when they come, they still need to find places to stay. They need to put up for the night, or depends on how long the process takes. So most persons from around Lethem, let's say Culver City, these are just nearby communities. Culver City, St. Ignatius, these are close by, like 5 minutes or so. So those are persons that are more those are persons that would more come out to access the services. As for the far reach areas, we still need to work on that, in probably providing some sort of support and transportation for those persons.
Okay. And you're a counselor, like you mentioned, in case persons are now joining us. What would you say I should ask, are there any kind of myths or maybe misconceptions surrounding counseling that, would maybe deter people from, reaching out for counseling help?
Right. There are a few.
Yeah,
Sorry, you hearing me?
yeah, I'm hearing you now.
Okay. Right. So when we speak about some of the misconceptions or some of the myths that I have observed, when we look at some persons or even children saying, "Oh, counseling is for crazy people. Why would I need counseling? I'm not crazy." Right? And then some persons say, the counselor does not know me and can't help me. You know, there are also some that would say, oh, the counselor just sits there and nods, doesn't say anything, just stay quiet. But those are all part of counseling, where you sit, you listen, you nod, right? We're paying attention to what the client is saying, right? And then some persons seeking counseling, I would say that if they seek counseling, they appear to be weak. And this would go mostly for the males, um, right? The males, they are supposed to appear strong, macho in the eyes of society. So once they see them going to counseling, oh, they appear weak and they don't like that. So those are some of the myths and misconceptions that I have come up with so far.
Yes. How do you think we can get persons to change their maybe change the way they view counseling and so on, and so that in the future they can willingly reach out for help if they need it?
Mhm. Right. So many people who attend counseling are bright. They're brilliant people. They're stable people, right? So these individuals are often struggling with a specific problem in their life, right? And they're also seeking personal development and growth. And stressors and difficulties are all a part of life. All right. So when we say we need to combat these misconceptions, we're speaking about having these persons equipped with the knowledge and facts about what it is that
I think your mic is muted again.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So when we speak about combating misconceptions of these persons, we're speaking about having them equipped with knowledge, having them providing them with facts surrounding counseling. We're also providing um, them with all the truth concerning counseling and how it is beneficial to them. So once they have these information, I think they would be more open to accessing the service of counseling. So once we provide the information to them, um, to throw out all the misconceptions and all the myths, once they have the facts, I think persons would be more open to accessing counseling as it is.
Definitely. And this all comes back to when the CAC is going out to do like sensitization and so on.
Right.
And all these things need to be taken into consideration, not just to maybe go out and sensitize them on child sexual abuse and how to report and how they can prevent it, and also, but also, sensitize them on the importance of counseling, why they should reach out for help. And I also like the fact that you mentioned males, they
Mhm.
may not maybe think of it as weak if they would have to reach out for
Right.
help and
Mhm.
so on. So those are things in the uh, cultural aspects that needs to be changed, and the only way we can do that is through education. Keep informing people, give them the information that they need, and we need to do this on a consistent basis, because you can't just do it one time and expect people to just change the way they think and the way they do things. Is
Correct.
there anything else that maybe you would like to add?
Right. One thing I would advise persons listening live is to make your reports. Don't be afraid. It may be a difficult task coming out. You may be afraid of how persons will look at you. You would be judged, but don't keep things in, because once you keep it to yourself, it's going to be a continuous process of you being hurt or you being abused. So speak out. I'd advise persons to speak out against child sexual abuse and abuse as a whole.
And for persons who maybe are thinking, but how do I go about reporting a case? Can you go through the process, like maybe tell them who they can go to, where they can go to, and so on, as it relates to your region specifically?
Okay, sure. So if a child is abused or being abused and anybody knows about it, um, firstly, if you're in school, you can tell your teachers or tell a friend. Probably the person would tell a teacher. So that teacher now would go on to call the child protection officer, which we have in the region. Um, After that, the child protection officer would look into the case, look into the matter, and then they would go ahead and report it to the police. The police would then take it up from there, right? And then we would have a referral um, for what you call a forensic interview. A forensic interview is where the child comes to the CAC, they tell the story only once, right? And then the statement is then prepared and given back to the police. From there, the police takes up the case, do their investigation, and it proceeds from there. So tell someone you trust. Tell a friend. They would help you to make your report. You don't need to be afraid.
Yes, and thank you for sharing that. Also, based on what you've shared today, there's so much work that you guys do there at the CAC in Region 9. And also there's so much more to do, which, it's gonna come in time, like you mentioned, going into certain communities. There is the challenge of transportation, also there's the challenge of finance and so on that contribute to children rather being in vulnerable situations. And these are things that they're going to be combated in time to come. So I do want to encourage you to just continue doing the work that you're doing there at the CAC. Continue the hard work, and I want to also thank you for taking the time out for this discussion today. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Deanna, for having me today.
Yes, I also want to thank persons who joined our discussion. And of course, we were looking at, increasing inclusivity in the fight against child sexual abuse, specifically relating to Region 9, where Keola is based at the CAC. So thank you once again for joining us, and goodbye.
All right, bye.